So we are able to sign users in and go to home screen, which is wonderful. But now we want to be able to create a user ourselves, right? Because the idea, of course, is to either log in or create an account. In this case, create that user, right? How do we do this? Well, we are going to do the same thing. Let's go back to our login screen view model and create yet another function. In fact, we already did that. It's at the bottom there. So let me just close this so we have space. Okay, so we are going to do the same thing. Create user with email and password. I'm going to pass here email, like that, and password. It's a string type as well, and of course, just like we did before, home, and like that. So this is going to be our lambda when we invoke it. All right, very good. So what we do here, I'm going to first look at the loading state. So I'm going to say if, because we can want to make sure that we can use that to check if it's loading, and we can tell the user that, hey, things are happening in the back end, so just hang in there. All right, so I'm going to say loading value is false, so it's not loading. If that's the case, then I'm going to set loading, that value, to true to say now you're loading because we're inside here, right, to do work. And then I'm going to use auth, our Firebase auth object, and invoke the create user with email and password. How convenient. Pass the email and pass the password. And I'm going to say dot add on complete listener, like this. I'm going to make it as a lambda. There is our task, beautiful friend task with auth result. So I'm going to do the same thing. Let me change this to task. It's easier to spot. Let's say if task is successful, then we're in good hands. In this case, we're just going to go home, right? Go back to our home screen because everything is good. And we could put else, of course, here, but it's fine. We don't. Well, else we could just for now say log d, pass in the task. Result that to string like this. So we need to then say loading, set the value to false. Say, yep, we are done loading, so put back to false. We're not loading anymore. All right, so believe or not, that's all for now at least. So let's go back to our reader login screen, and we have our to do there. Let's get rid of this to do because we've done with that. Here we are going to do what? Well, do the same thing, view model, invoke the create with email and password. I'm going to pass our password and pass, oh, actually first email, and then pass the password as such. And then we know this is, we can pass the trailing lambda for our home. I'm going to say nav controller navigate, make sure we get the route option. This is very important, otherwise you're gonna end up with errors with the readers. Screens, let's say readers screens, there we go, that guy in enum, and say reader home screen, that name, and that's that. All right, let's see if this is true, if this actually works. Let's run. Okay, moment of truth. Okay, so we are going to sign up, so click there. We're going to sign up. Let's say james@me.com. Give that, and I'm going to say enter. So everything went well because I was able to go home. That's really good. If you go back to our console, refresh, we should see that new user that we have added. And there we go. There's James added. It's wonderful. This is really good news. In fact, I think Logcat should have a few things here as well. Well, maybe not. Let's see. FB. It's okay. I think Logcat is asleep. But it's okay. We know that everything worked fine because we can see that James was added. And most importantly, we were able to take the user to the correct screen. So at this point, there are a few things we need to do. First, when we create a user, we are going to have to create a user in a different place. What I mean by that is as follows. If we go back to our console, we see that, of course, we have this authentication. So we have our users here for authentication. However, we want to be able to move some of these users, at least some part of these users, and add some other metadata, some other information to these users if we wish to do so. We want to move that to our Firebase or Firestore database here, which means we're going to have a users collection here, and we can add that user that was just added or was just authenticated into our collection here, our database, because here it's different from here. And this will become more apparent later, because then what we want to do is for each user that we add here, like I said, we can add more metadata, more information about this user. But most importantly, we're going to be able to add, for instance, the last name if we wanted to do so, the profession, whatever else we want. But most importantly, we want to be able to add this connection between the user and the books that they have. And we are only able to do so if we have the users attached to our database as well. Okay, so that is the thought process. So that's what we're going to be doing next, which is as users are created or authenticated, right? In this case, we want to also right away do something else. We want to create a function, right? Create a function there in our view model that will create or add into our users database here that user that was just now created. Okay, so that's what we will do next.